Black gold greases the wheels of commerce in the United States and much of the Western world. The slightest interruption or change in its flow can wreak havoc on market economies. And for many in the United States, the crisis in the Gulf serves as warning against dependency on imported oil. Larry LaMotte with our report.
Ideas for saving and producing energy are flooding Washington, D.C. now that energy prices are rising. Congressmen are under pressure to take those ideas and develop a national energy policy.
We're hearing in the Congress today people screaming and hollering, where is this energy strategy? Can't you rush it up? We need it today. They were the same people 6 months to a year ago were going ho-hum when we told them we were embarking upon this long and difficult journey.
With U.S. soldiers poised to fight in the Middle East, America's leaders are no longer ho-hum about energy. Still, it is doubtful that a bullet-biting energy battle plan will be developed anytime soon.
We desperately need a national energy policy. Almost everyone agrees that we need a national energy policy, but there's darn little agreement what that national energy policy ought to be.
I think the politicians will do what's politically popular, and that is to tell people everything's okay, we don't have to sacrifice.
The chances of a serious energy policy being adopted in the next year are zero.
America's failure to wean itself from a growing addiction to imported oil reflects a society unwilling to make tough choices, not as long as the price is right.
I can go to the drugstore here in Washington, D.C. and pay more for a gallon of bottle of water than I do for a gallon of gasoline across the street at the filling station.
And here we are committing young Americans to harm's way just to protect access to oil. There's no other reason. If there's nothing but Middle East sand, we wouldn't be there. And everyone knows that.
The U.S. is now importing almost half of its oil. In a few years, it will be 70%. But breaking the country's dependence requires controversial trade-offs. For example, the energy industries want a national policy to emphasize increased domestic production. Oilmen would like to drill in new areas of Alaska.
It has the potential of delivering 1 million barrels a day for 30 years. That's not an insignificant amount. It's 1/4 of all of the oil lost from shutting down Kuwait and Iraqi oil.
Trouble is, some of the drilling would be in the federally protected Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Many environmentalists say with oil running out in America, not enough can be found in Alaska to halt the growing dependence on imported oil. Therefore, it's not worth the ecological risk.
This is an area of unique ecological wealth, and a decision has to be made at some point whether it's worth sacrificing all of that for the relatively small amount of oil that may be there.
Coal and nuclear face similar compromises. Coal is plentiful, but pollutes the air. Nuclear doesn't pollute, but people remain concerned about safety and waste disposal.
An American today has this not-in-my-backyard syndrome, NIMBY. I don't want a nuclear plant in my backyard, don't want a coal-fired plant, don't want you building high-powered transmission lines anywhere in my neighborhood, don't want a gas pipeline anywhere.
So what can be done? Federal gasoline taxes could be raised to force Americans to conserve. After all, Europeans pay $3 and $4 a gallon, and most of the price is taxes.
Getting from current gasoline prices to European gasoline prices, I don't think any politician is ready to do that. He'll suffer a worse fate than Jimmy Carter did.
I still have the black and blue marks on me from trying to put through a 50-cent gasoline tax increase back in the 1970s.
Studies show only a large, immediate tax increase would force drivers to try mass transit, use smaller cars, or carpool. But fearing voter anger, politicians will likely vote only a small increase in federal taxes, phased in over a number of years.
To get everybody as a whole to come together and conserve, the mass majority won't do it. So the tax will just be more money for the government to be wasted.
Alternatives must be addressed in any energy policy. This postal vehicle in Decatur, Georgia, is running on compressed natural gas. In the Midwest, Gasohol, a blend of gasoline and ethanol made from corn, is being tried. Wind, geothermal, and solar are also part of the U.S. energy mix. In concept, the possibility of a plentiful alternative source of supply is popular with the public. In reality, these potential replacements for oil are decades away and require massive research and development funds and subsidies.
Right now, we're unprepared to accept a rise in the budget deficit. So the tool of subsidy, like taxes, tends to disappear.
Energy efficiency is a cornerstone in a national energy policy. They believe in it here, the Southwire Company, a producer of copper, cable, and wire. The 6 plants nationwide have saved millions of dollars in the past decade in energy costs. How?
By putting in high-efficiency equipment rather than the older, low-efficiency equipment, by modernizing, computerizing, and just retrofitting our operations to get higher in-use technology, as well as cutting back on waste.
Southwire executives credit energy efficiency with keeping them competitive internationally. American business has the motivation to save. It's called survival. This motel in Helen, Georgia, will eventually have lower utility bills after these solar panels are installed. But what about homeowners? In the 70s, shortages and high prices convinced many to conserve. Interest waned in the 80s when prices plummeted. Today, the lives of American soldiers are on the line. But will the standoff in the Gulf change U.S. energy behavior?
I don't believe that the present crisis is adequate in its severity to bring about a dramatic change in our policy toward energy conservation. I don't think so.
Recent polls bear that out. They show most Americans doing very little to conserve energy.
Now that we have American troops in a foreign country, you know, the crunch is on. And I think we've got to take the agenda and say, hey, now's the time to make the hard decision.
The time is right, but all signs say when the fiery rhetoric dies down, America will most likely be without a meaningful energy policy to propel it into the 21st century. Larry LaMotte, CNN, Special Reports.